and welcome back to Daisy Lane TMD. I'm going to start this video with a question. Do you think it's possible to have too much detail on a layout? We're often commented on by people at various exhibitions about the amount of detail that we have incorporated into Daisy, whether it be internally within the sheds or whether it be externally on the hard standings or within the street scene itself. What do you think? Do you think it's possible to have too much detail? Perhaps you'd let me know in the comments. In the meantime, let's have a closer inspection of Daisy and see how much detail we've incorporated. Then you can make your mind up as to whether you think we've got too much detail on there or not. So we start with a view looking at the main running shed on Daisy Lane TMD. Meanwhile, a BR Blue Class 20 arrives into the head shunt. As can be seen directly in front of the end of the running shed is the main fuel point, together with a small porter cabin to the left hand side. Now moving round to the front of the running shed, you can see directly inside on road 2 we have a snowplough at the far end, and on the fuel point directly in front we have a class 37 with a 47 behind. To the left is the porter cabin with the two characters in front. Meanwhile, over on the far right hand side there's storage outside the rear of the industrial units, and we'll come on to this later. So we now move around to the side to the two characters who stand outside of the porter cabin. We have Dennis standing up in his orange overalls, and meanwhile we have Julian who's crouched down with a box in front of him. The story behind this is that Julian, who's the depot apprentice, has been sent out to look for a long wait. After a period of time, Dennis has gone out there with his cup of tea in hand to inform Julian that of course a long wait does not exist. Julian can be seen there pondering how he's going to get his own back on the rest of the staff currently located within the depot building. So now moving around to the fuel line itself, which sits directly in front of the running shed. Here we can see Tom, the diesel man, who's in charge of refuelling all the locos that arrive on Daisy Lane for fuel, and is currently attending to a class 47A in intercity livery. This scene has been added to over the time with various items from manufacturers. So we have the fuel pumps, which I believe are from a Hornby kit, and we have several oil drums which are from various manufacturers. The roof itself is a Nightwing kit, and lights have been added to this to illuminate this area and make more of a feature of it. Now we have a scene taken between the porter cabin and the front of the running shed itself. This is quite a nice scene. I particularly like this scene, and is used very often for seeing locos running in and out of the main running shed. In this particular shot, we can see in the foreground a gentleman with the name of Montgomery. This particular character appears in a lot of posts on Daisy Lane, particularly with the locos running in and out, and is seen to do very little, and he's ridiculed for this fact. Moving across, we have a gentleman leaning on the oil drums adjacent to the fuel point. This particular character does not have a name. And then over the far side of the shot, we can see the Network Southeast depot pilot, which has arrived for some fuel, together with Humphrey, who rides on the steps of the shunter as it goes about his duties. Now we move into the running shed itself. On the left hand side you can see Douglas bent over. This is a character who's tying up his shoelaces, and there's a running story about him across Daisy Lane. As the 20 approaches the entrance to the shed, you can see the lit pit directly in front, and to the right you can see another character who again has not as yet got a name. Within the shed there are several elements which have been added, including pallets, tubs, barrels, etc., as well as work equipment and tools. These all add to make the scene very detailed. As can be seen, there is no roof on the running shed. This was deliberate in order to allow all the details to be seen at exhibitions and generates the most comments from visitors. So we now move outside of the shed to the rear of the industrial units, as mentioned earlier. Here we can see Stanley and Kevin carrying out their stock taking process of all the various materials that are stored in the rear yard, including sheet steel, corrugated iron and long lengths of timber. And just turning slightly, you can see the fence line between the industrial units and the railway and the various items that are stacked up against it, including drums, barrels and a few pallets which have just been left discarded. Also in the scene you can see Phil, the Daisy Lane TMD forklift truck driver. Now he appears all over the place on the depot, carrying various things to and from, and has also at one point made a bid for freedom, was seen driving up Daisy Lane itself to the local shop. Unfortunately for Phil, HR became aware of the incident and he was reprimanded for his actions and has since calmed down his behaviour. We now move down the side of the running shed and we can see Frank, who is the conductor of the depot's brass band, carrying out some practice whilst no one's looking. This is quite a funny scene and generates an awful lot of comments when people see him waving his arms about at exhibitions. We now move on to the two legends that are Tina and Doreen, who run the staff canteen in the office building on Daisy Lane TMD. They provide a legendary fry-up, which is partaken by most members of the staff, including all the drivers, the office team and the mechanics. Other hot and cold foods of course are available, but clearly not as popular as Doreen's fry-up. We now move on to Daisy Lane itself, which is the lane that provides access to the depot. In the foreground is Charlie Titch-Leggett, the boss of the building company, together with Dave, who's on top of the scaffold. You can just see his legs. He is the depot foreman. And we have Peter and Joe, who are the other employees for the builders company. On the right of this shot we have Albert in his green crimpoline jacket, who is engrossed in watching Toby the window cleaner cleaning one of the windows on Daisy Lane. These builders have just removed a famous green avocado bathroom suite which were popular in the 70s, and the bath sits on the street scene. This also generates a lot of comments during exhibitions. We now move to the top of Daisy Lane to the bus stop, and here we have Doreen, David and Delilah, who are waiting for the number 604 bus, which is just arriving. And finally, no tour of Daisy Lane TMD would be complete without looking at the Mark II Ford Escort, which sits burnt out at the top end of the layout, which has been dumped obviously after joyriders and torched. This vehicle generates an awful lot of comments at exhibitions, mainly because it's at the front of the layout and a visual scene that most people will see. Okay, so now we've had a look at Daisy Lane in detail. What do you think? Do you think there's too many detail and cameo scenes on the layout itself? Do you think there's not enough? It all comes down to personal choice, I think, at the end of the day. I quite like the amount of detail we've got on there. The cameo scenes such as the burnt out car, the two people pushing the car up the hill towards the depot, or the builder's scene even on the street scene itself. We are still looking to add more details to it, including things such as a roller shutter door on the depot itself, which we're going to try and animate. And let's just see where we go from there. So I hope you liked the video. As I said before, please comment below. I appreciate your comments as to whether you think there's too much detail, not enough. Any other things that you think we could personally add, which could improve it? Or do you think there's some things that we should take off? I'd be really interested to know your opinion on that. And if you'd be so kind enough as to subscribe and like, then that would be fantastic. In the meantime, I hope you liked the video and look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for watching.